Anyway, it led to article after article of people being like, Ellen's a bitch. Ellen is a nasty person.
Apparently, she created a workplace more toxic than an Amazon warehouse in Chernobyl. Countless allegations surfaced last summer that the show's work environment was rife with harassment and discrimination.
Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly just exposed what Hollywood tried to bury, that Ellen DeGeneres, the so-called queen of kindness, was allegedly anything but kind behind the scenes. For years, Ellen sold the world on sunshine, sneakers, and studio dance parties. But according to staffers, ex-employees, and now two of TV's most outspoken commentators, it was all a cover-up for a toxic, controlling, and downright hostile workplace. So when Ellen tried to stage her big comeback, walking through a sunlit field, flashing that rehearsed smile, preaching about growth and healing, Greg and Megyn didn't just roll their eyes. They went live, and they lit the whole illusion on fire. Because behind the smiles was silence. Behind the giveaways, gaslighting. And Ellen's brand, it's crumbling. One exposed truth at a time. Let's get into this. Back in the golden years of TV, Ellen was untouchable. Like, she is literally dubbed as the Be Kind Queen in daytime TV. The woman who could get Taylor Swift to cry on cue and give away cars like Halloween candy. But behind the choreographed smiles and the sparkle-filtered lighting, a whole different vibe. The first hints came quietly. Anonymous staffers whispering about a toxic work environment. Nothing major, at first. But then came BuzzFeed.
The internal investigation into Ellen's show was launched just days after BuzzFeed published this article describing what it called a toxic work culture. It claimed a former worker walked off the job because she was fed up with comments about her race.
In case you missed the chaos, an article actually dropped with dozens of former employees detailing harassment, bullying, racial insensitivity, and Ellen, silent. For too long. But when she responds, it wasn't remorse. And a lot of people actually thought it was still part of her branding.
As you may have heard, this summer there were allegations of a toxic work environment at our show. And then there was an investigation. I learned that things happened here that never should have happened. I take that very seriously, and I want to say I am so sorry to the people who were affected. I know that I'm in a position of privilege and power, and I realize that with that comes responsibility, and I take responsibility for what happens at my show.
Basically, what should have been an apology sounded like a PR-filtered monologue wrapped in faux vulnerability. I had no idea, she claimed, like she was just another victim of her own empire. Greg Gutfeld wasn't having it. On live TV, he tore into her like a roast master who finally got permission, and Greg being Greg didn't hold back. He sarcastically compared Ellen's sudden shock at the toxic culture on her show to something as absurd as the Titanic claiming it just wanted to go for a casual swim.
But Ellen told the Today Show, home of Matt Lauer, that the bad press actually had nothing to do with her decision. Right, and the Titanic didn't hit an iceberg, it chose to sink.
Greg was being pretty obvious. In his eyes, it wasn't just a clueless mistake. It was a long-running system she built and maintained, now being downplayed as an innocent oversight. He didn't stop there. Greg framed her entire legacy as one long, carefully curated fraud. In his words, this wasn't just daytime TV, it was a full-blown illusion, like a theme park of delusion where everything looked happy on the surface, but behind the scenes, it was all control, silence, and fear. And as the audience laughed, you could tell the truth hit a little too close to home, and a lot fans actually agreed. One person wrote, "She built a theme park on kindness I could see hate every time she said be kind." And just when you thought the satire couldn't go any deeper, Megyn Kelly joined the firestorm. Now let's be clear, Megyn's no stranger to media spin. She's seen the inner gears of broadcast networks, the fakery, the optics. But Ellen? Megyn believes Ellen was on another level. She wasn't just playing nice, she was weaponizing it. On her show, Megyn broke down how Ellen wasn't canceled over one comment or mistake. This wasn't a slip. Megyn Kelly didn't chalk this up to one bad moment. She called it what it really was, a long-running pattern. For years, she explained, employees weren't treated like people. They were more like set pieces. You know, invisible, voiceless, and only valued when they clapped on cue. With this, Megyn's message was clear. Ellen wants everyone to stay quiet, smile on command, and don't expect kindness behind the camera. And the no eye contact policy? That wasn't some urban legend. Megyn confirmed she'd spoken to people, credible people, who backed it up, like from a real person who actually witnessed it.
And all these staffers started to come out, not for nothing, but I know a guy, I know him very well, whose sister worked for her, who said you were not allowed to make eye contact with Ellen in the halls of that show. If you saw her, this is not a nice person.
According to Megyn, it wasn't some official policy posted in the break room, but everyone knew the unspoken rule: don't make eye contact with Ellen, not unless you were willing to risk your job. It was the kind of silent warning that traveled faster than any memo, and it kept the entire workplace walking on eggshells. But here's where it really gets twisted. Because after all that, the staff testimonies, the media storm, the collapse in ratings, Ellen decided to come back. Not with humility, but with a full Netflix special. And guess what? She plays the victim. Her narrative? She was driven out of Hollywood without any choice.
So she eventually got canceled, but now she's coming back. She's got a Netflix special. That's the right response.
Yeah.
She's got a Netflix special. And here's the capper. On the promo, and apparently there's now articles out about from people who have seen the preview, she plays the victim.
Well, guess what? Megyn dragged it through the mud on her show. Megyn didn't sugarcoat it. She framed Ellen's comeback special as nothing more than a carefully packaged sympathy tour. A glossy attempt at redemption backed by a Netflix deal, all while living in luxury. Because let's be honest, it's hard to play the victim when you're sobbing from a mansion in Montecito. And Greg? Oh, he had a field day too. He turned Ellen's special into comedic target practice. Greg mocked the idea that Ellen was still learning from her mistakes, joking that at her age, the only lessons left should be about retirement plans, not workplace ethics. But the real gut punch came when he summed up her downfall as a self-inflicted collapse. A trust fall gone wrong, where she didn't just stumble, she landed squarely on the very people her brand had overlooked for years, the staff doing all the real work behind the scenes. At this point, they weren't just mocking her, they were calling out the entire illusion. As mentioned earlier, people had been pointing their fingers at Ellen, saying she is lying about her kind heart. And behind all the good deeds is actually a person who does nasty things under the table. And the media? They helped. They bought into it. Every cupcake segment, every puppy rescue. They polished that halo so hard it blinded people to what was really happening backstage. Megyn pointed out how Ellen became a symbol for the entertainment industry's biggest lie, that kindness and goodness are the same thing, pointing out how Ellen built a culture of control disguised in compassion.
I agree with you. And forgiveness is great. I'm Catholic. It's just the double standard on it is very galling.
Greg took it a step further, saying how Hollywood doesn't cancel its own unless it has no choice. Ellen didn't fall. She was revealed. That right there? That was the moment the curtain came all the way down. And then came Dakota Johnson. Now, you might be wondering why she's involved in this mess. Well, she is one of the few celebs who actually called Ellen out on national TV. Remember that viral moment? Ellen tries to joke about not being invited to Dakota's party. And Dakota, calm, unbothered, hits back, revealing how she actually sent an invite and that Ellen was lying up front. And the look on Ellen's face? For 1 second, the mask slipped. The nice girl persona cracked, and what you saw underneath wasn't pretty. It wasn't a joke. It was a power play gone wrong.
Belated birthday. When was your birthday?
It was October 4th.
October 4th. You turned 30.
I did.
And how was the party? I wasn't invited.
Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. You were invited. Last time I was on the show, last year, you gave me a bunch of about not inviting you, but I didn't even know you wanted to be invited.
Well, who doesn't want to be invited to a party?
Well, I didn't even know you liked me.
That moment spread like wildfire, not because of what was said, but because of what it revealed. Ellen wasn't in control anymore. The script didn't work. And that's when the public turned. And just like that, what Greg and Megyn had been saying all these time made sense. Fast forward to now. Ellen leaves the US saying she's never coming back because of Trump. Cue more mockery, and you guess it, these two are also present. Greg joked that if Trump's presidency made Ellen leave Hollywood, he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. Even funnier, Ellen moves to the UK, claiming she's fleeing politics, only to end up in Oxford surrounded by other celebrities. Greg, of course, dragged her for this decision, basically popping her bubble. Megyn wrapped it up perfectly by circling back to her earlier statements, accusing Ellen of wanting a rebrand rather than actually walking away from Hollywood. Because in Hollywood, being misunderstood is the new marketing strategy. It's how you dodge accountability and flip the narrative. But Megyn didn't let it slide. She dragged the whole blueprint, soft press, calculated tears, celebrity alliances, into the light. She said what nobody else would. Ellen didn't deserve a comeback. She deserved to be held accountable. And Greg? He tossed one last fireball, giving a different title to Ellen's Netflix special, and let's just say he has good taste, because that's all it ever was, a lie dressed in dancing shoes syndicated 5 days a week. And now, the empire is dust. No more applause, no more giveaways. Just the long, slow echo of a brand that confused good vibes with good character. Ellen may have danced her way into America's heart, but she tap danced herself straight out of credibility. So the next time you see a perfectly polished celebrity crying about being misunderstood, ask yourself, is this pain or is this a promo? Because Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly didn't just expose Ellen, they reminded us of something way bigger. That in Hollywood, the truth doesn't come in a press release. It comes when the cameras stop rolling. And for Ellen, they're off. But what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments and make sure to stick around for more.